very, very scarce. There's not that much of it available. And that is why the price of property in Hawaii continues to go up, because the desire for people to buy property and live here doesn't go away. It continues to go up, but the amount of land that's available for us to purchase is very, very limited. And the state isn't making more of it available. These private entities that own huge land holdings don't make a lot of it available very often. So we're always going to be limited to what we have available to us to purchase. People often ask, why is land so expensive in Hawaii or property in general? And there's a lot of different reasons for that. There's a lot of different market reasons for that. But at the end of the day, inventory and supply normally drive prices when it comes to demand. And there is always a lot of demand of people who want to live and buy property in Hawaii. And so we have to look to supply as a source of why property is expensive or why land is so scarce. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to break down and look at who actually owns property in Hawaii and give you an idea of how much land is actually available for normal property ownership, because it really tells a story as to why land is so expensive in Hawaii. So when you're asking yourself, who actually owns all this land? And a lot of times people look around and they see big open spaces, especially on the Big Island or on Maui, where it looks like there's tons of land available. Like, why isn't it available for me to buy? Or how come people don't live on it? And so we're gonna break down and look at data here and see where all the property ownership lies. And so the first thing is that the government, the state and federal and county government, own an enormous amount of land, right? So in the state of Hawaii, there is about 4.1 million acres of land across the entire state. The state of Hawaii owns 1.6 million of that, so about 39%. The federal government owns 531,000 acres, that's 13%. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands, which is a part of the state government and is a trust for Native Hawaiians to live on. They provide land ownership for long-term leases at a very low cost. They own about 200,000 acres, so that's about 5%. And then there's other public and nonprofit land holdings, which equal about 469,000, about 11%. So when it comes to private ownership, there's only about 1.3 million acres available, or 32% of the land is even available for private ownership at all outside of these government and public entities. So digging deeper into that 1.3 million acres, there's not that many people who own most of that land. And so we're gonna break that down. First huge entity in the state that owns a large amount of property is Kamehameha Schools, formerly known as Bishop Estate. And this is a charitable trust, one of the largest charitable trusts in America. They own 363,000 acres of land and lease a lot of that out for agriculture. There's lots of conservation. There's some commercial and residential properties, but the revenue produced from that land funds Kamehameha Schools, which is the private school that benefits the children of Hawaii or Hawaiian children. And so this is a huge landholder when we're talking about the amount of public or private land that's available for purchase.
If you're looking to relocate here on the Big Island, I want to share with you a resource that we put together. Over 80 agents from my team, expert agents here on the Big Island, put together a relocation guide that will help you evaluate all of the important factors that you want to take into account before you move here to the Big Island. School districts, healthcare, employment, all of the things that you got to think about, we put into one homebuyers guide that will help you figure out what is best when you start this relocation process here to the Big Island. So if you want this guide, just click on the link below, fill out the form. We will send you the guide for free. And if you want to take the next steps and have a conversation with us, we'd be happy to help.
And then we have Parker Ranch here on the Big Island. They own 130,000 acres. They are one of the largest private ranches in America. It's primarily used for cattle ranching, but they're a very, very large landholder here on the Big Island. Then we have the Robinson family. They own 101,000 acres. They own primarily the island of Niihau, which is off limits to outsiders. And then they do have some additional land holdings on Kauai. Then Larry Ellison owns 87,000 acres, pretty much the whole entire island of Lanai. 98% of the island of Lanai is owned by Larry Ellison, and that's focused on tourism and agriculture. But if you've ever been to Lanai, there's only a very small area in the middle of the island that has any type of regular private ownership. And then Alexander and Baldwin, or sometimes referred to as A&B, they're historically a sugarcane and pineapple empire. They had tons and tons of land holdings. They own 87,000 acres across the state. And then Molokai Ranch owns a large portion of the island of Molokai. They own 55,000 acres there. Then there's James Campbell Company, or Campbell Estate. They own 20,000 acres across the state. Used to be part of mainly sugar, but they do a lot of residential and commercial development now. And then you have Grove Farm on the island of Kauai, which owns 30,000 acres. So they are, again, agriculturally based, but they do some commercial and residential development now also. So those 8 entities own about 870,000 acres of land. And that is 62% of the available land to the regular public. And so it only leaves about 400,000 acres available to the rest of the public to own. And if you run that against the entire total of land that's available in Hawaii, it's only about 9.7% of all the land in Hawaii is available to regular folks like you and I to own. So very, very scarce. There's not that much of it available. And that is why the price of property in Hawaii continues to go up, because the desire for people to buy property and live here doesn't go away. It continues to go up, but the amount of land that's available for us to purchase is very, very limited, and the state isn't making more of it available. These private entities that own huge land holdings don't make a lot of it available very often. So we're always going to be limited to what we have available to us to purchase. So if you have any questions about this or anything else Hawaii real estate related, you can always email me at dylan@buybigisland.com or book meeting with the link in the description. Always appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys next week. Aloha.